And there is the big man. Hey guys, we're back here on the Hunter Call the Wild, and today we're going to be doing an updated Great One Fallow guide. Now I actually currently have 3 Great One Fallow on the map. I have been grinding a lot of fallow deer, and so I can definitely say that the strategy that we are using definitely works. And that, my friends, is a monster diamond fallow deer. Holy, that's got to be a max waiter. Now guys, let me know in the comments what your best fallow trophy is to date, and somewhere in the video I am going to share a key phrase. Drop that in the comments for your chance to win a 1-month membership to the channel, and we are going to head right into it. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do when setting up for a fallow grind is find all of your fallow deer drink zones. Now, the best map by far to do the fallow grind in is here in Te Awaroa, and the reason for that is there is only 30 to 35 drink zones on this map, and their zones are very condensed. So I am going to share a hotspot map showing you where all my zones are towards the end of the video, but basically where you will find fallow is at these lakes. I have 1 zone on this lake, and then I have zones all the way down the river and all the way back, all the way down the coast on this lake and the right side of this lake, and that's it. So find your drink zones, and while you're out searching for them, definitely carry tents and tripods if you have them, and set up on your best zones as you are discovering your zones. This is just going to save you a pile of time. Now, when you are setting up on a zone, you want to set your tents at least 220 meters back. I still have my tents at about 250 meters. I never changed them. They've been like this for years, and I'm totally happy with them. Some of them I've moved up a little bit since the last update, but not too many. And then I like to put my tripods at about 175 to 200 meters. You want to be able to fast travel to the tent, run out, run right into the tripod without spooking your deer, and shoot those bucks. Then what you want to do is choose 8 zones to be your main shooting zones. This is going to be a herd managed guide. I am using herd management. If you don't want to use herd management, you absolutely do not have to, and you can still spawn a great one. But by using herd management, you're going to spawn more diamonds, bigger rares, possibly super rares, and eventually that great one. But you don't have to use herd management in order to spawn a great one. So you're going to need 16 tents. I would recommend 16 tripods as well. You can add tripods later if you can't afford them right away. You are going to make a lot of cash doing this grind. Anytime you shoot anything over and over and harvest it, you're going to make a bunch of cash. So you can slowly add tripods, and if that is what you're going to do, just be very careful not to blow out your zones. You can only shoot 3 animals from any zone, and the 4th kill will delete the zone. I would recommend just shooting 2 bucks from each zone. That is what I do in my grind. So just to show you how I'm set up here is my tent. I run to the tripod and I shoot over to this zone. Down here is my zone. Actually, I have a great one there, so let's go have a look. So this is how I have this zone set up. I just came out of the tent, I run right out and jump up the tripod, and there are my deer, and there is my second great one. So basically you want to set up 8 tents on 8 zones that are your favorites. These are going to be considered your main shooting zones. These are the zones you're going to use throughout the entirety of your grind. Then you're going to use the other 8 tents to set up on 8 different zones. Those are going to be considered exterior zones. And once you are set up on 16 zones, you want to start rotating on all 16 zones at the same time, shooting 2 deer from each zone, mid-levels and up. Now, exterior zones are zones that you're going to shoot at until you have nothing but small bucks in them, and once you have small bucks, you're going to pull your tent and tripod and go and set up on a different fallow zone and continue to move your setups until every fallow zone on the map, except for your 8 main shooting zones, has tiny deer in them. Basically, when you're shooting, you're going to be shooting level 3s and up, but not all 3s. If you have tiny 3s, if they look like 2s basically, don't shoot them. Treat them like they're 2s. And I will actually show you what a small 3 looks like. This is a big 3. So this here is a small 3. You see how it looks very similar to this level 2? So this is what I would consider a small 3. So if you find one of these at an exterior zone, do not shoot it. Now, while you're doing this, when you do spawn diamonds, you're going to stack them. And what stacking means is simply to not shoot them. Leave them there for a little while. So this level 5, if I were to stack him, I would just leave him, not shoot him, shoot 2 deer from this zone around him, and leave them when they spawn in main shooting zones. If you do have a diamond spawn at an exterior zone, you can shoot it, taxi it, and put it in your lodge, but when they spawn at main shooting zones, leave them. The purpose of stacking, what that actually is going to do for you is when you have a bunch of diamonds on your map, that basically tells the game that that there's a lot of big animals. We're gonna give you small animals to offset the big animals already on the map. And that may sound like a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing while you are shooting down your map. That's going to cause a lot of small deer to spawn, and it's gonna help you to shoot down your exterior zones nice and fast. Okay, so this here is one of my exterior zones that has been shot down. So this is what a zone is gonna look like with all small deer in it. So once you come to a zone, if it looks like this, then you can pull up your tent and tripod and move to another zone and continue shooting until all of the exterior zones on the map are shot down. So basically, once you have found all your zones and set up with 16 tents and tripods, you're gonna start rotating on all 16 zones at the same time. You're gonna shoot the mid-levels and above, shoot your 2 biggest bucks from each zone. Unless, of course, you come to a zone and it looks like this, then you're gonna move your setup and choose a different zone. And continue doing that until basically every zone on the map, except for your 8 main shooting zones, looks like this. When that happens, then it is time to pull those tents and tripods. Then you can use those tents as pickup tents for your main zones. And you'll notice I have pickup tents at all of my main shooting zones. Now, the reason you're only gonna shoot 2 from each zone is when you shoot more than 2, then you can get bigger bucks jumping out and spawning at zones like this that have been shot down, and that is not what you want. So only shoot 2 from each zone. Now, you are gonna notice that you will have a lot of solo zones on your map. Now, a solo zone is just that. It's a zone with 1 deer in it. It also can be a zone with multiple males in it. When you have a zone with all males and no does, those are solos sharing a drink zone. When you shoot a solo, that animal is not going to respawn in the same spot. It is going to respawn somewhere else. If it is the only animal in the solo zone, then that drink zone will disappear, it will delete, and it will show up somewhere else on the map. Now, while you are doing a herd managed fallow grind, you are going to have to deal with your solo zones that are bigger. And I am going to explain to you how to do this, and it's actually not that hard. So basically, if this guy were like a big 3 or bigger in a solo zone, then that is a solo that I would want to try and make smaller. Now, in order for me to do that, this is what I would recommend doing. On a fresh game startup, meaning you have not shot anything yet, and this is tougher to do since the last update because we don't know exactly when animals are respawning anymore. Before, we could just leave the map and we'd know that everything had respawned. So basically, when you first start playing, before you've shot anything, what you want to do is go to your solo zone where you have a big solo. Shoot that fallow. Do not harvest it. This is the only time I'm going to tell you not to harvest an animal. Leave it on the ground and then go to one of your main shooting zones and find the smallest deer that you can find. So basically, I know I have a little too. This guy right here would be perfect. So shoot the smallest deer you can find and also do not harvest it. Leave it on the ground. Now, your best chance at success when doing this is doing this when you do have a bunch of diamond stack, because that is going to give you a greater chance at getting a small respawn. But when you do that, then you leave the map and come back. You don't harvest them, just leave the map. They are going to respawn at the same time, and they have a 50-50 chance of their respawns swapping zones. So basically, if you come back to the zone where you shot the small fallow, if you have a bigger one, there's a very good chance that it did work. But again, it just has a 50-50 chance of working, so you may have to do this multiple times, but it does usually work on the first or second try, and that's how you deal with solos. But once you do that, you don't want to shoot anything for about 10 or 15 minutes because you want to give the fallow enough time to respawn, and we don't know exactly how long that is. So by waiting about 15 minutes, they should have respawned by then, and then you can continue with your grind or continue shooting down solos. Now, as far as loadout goes, when I am doing the fallow grind, I like to carry with me the Arzina 300. I do grind with a caliber higher than what is recommended for fallow deer. So I'm not getting integrity, but I'm not shooting trophies with the 300. I'm just shooting deer that I need a respawn from. Then I have the Zarza 308, or you can use any class 4 to 8 rifle. Whatever your favorite is will work just fine, and that is for diamonds and rares and for great ones. Then of course I do have my ammo, and I do use the Hyperion. Not a big fan of the Argus. I have my Antler Rattler, and that is the fallow deer collar. Then I have the Apex View, and you always want to carry tents because beavers are gonna knock your tents out, and you don't want to have to run all the way back there in order to put your tent back, so you definitely want to carry tents even after you're done setting up. So that is my fallow loadout. Now, like I mentioned, there is only 30 to 35 drink zones I have 33 to be exact. Now, when you're looking for your zones, you basically, what I would recommend doing is you definitely want to tent this area. You're going to have 5 or 6 drink zones, and these 2 lakes are excellent for fallow. So come on out here, drop a tent somewhere, and start spotting. And you want to basically go from this outpost and run out here, run all the way down and all the way up, spotting into the distance. If you pick up fallow tracks, follow them. They will more than likely lead you to zones. Listen for mating calls and warning calls, and just basically follow any clue that there are fallow around. And then you would run all the way down the coast, right to the end of render. You want to check this lake, and there will be one zone. Mine is right there. That is the only zone that I have for fallow on this lake, and it is actually a solo. But you could have a herd zone there. We are not going to have exactly the same zones. Now, if you do find zones with all females, then just consider that a shot down zone and just don't worry about it. There's nothing to shoot there, so there's no reason to set up. Just leave it and don't worry about it. And this is my 3rd Fallow Great One that is on the map. Now, grinds can take you anywhere from 1 kill up to thousands and thousands of kills, but I would imagine that herd management will probably make your grind a little bit shorter. Now, I actually went up to the cottage and shot 1,000 fallow deer. My first Fallow Great One spawned immediately, but I had been shooting for a long time at home, so that grind actually took me 1,500 kills. Then I kept shooting, and the next Fallow Great One spawned in 330 kills, and I kept shooting, and this guy spawned 550 kills later. So I've had some pretty great RNG. Spawning a Great One is definitely up to RNG, and that just stands for random number generator, and all it really means is luck. You just have to keep shooting. It could take you quite a long time, and it might be very fast. But if you do end up with a long grind, I would recommend continue shooting after your Great One spawns. There is a very good chance a second Great One will come along much faster. That is what I see all the time. Now, things have changed a little bit since the last update, so I am going to talk about how things are different now from how they were before. Let's head up here. Okay, you see these? These are all solos, and they are all small because I have shot them down. So that method definitely works. Now, sometimes you're gonna get 1 buck in a zone, sometimes you're gonna get multiple bucks in a zone, and they won't always have the same amount. They don't necessarily respawn into the exact zone you shot them from, but if they don't respawn into this zone, they're gonna respawn into a very close zone, and that respawn will come over here. They will kind of jump around. So if you had 2 here and next time you have 1 respawn, don't worry about it. Now, when I start my rotation, what I do is I change the time, and I like to grind basically in the last hour of drink time because you're just way more likely to have fallow in their zones. So I usually set the time for about 11:45 to 11:50. That's what time I like to start to grind. And when I get to 1 o'clock or 1300, I just set the time back and I continue grinding. Now, after every rotation, I still leave the map and come back. Now, I know it doesn't force respawns anymore, but what it does do is it stops animals that are nervous from being nervous. They come back calm, and if you have nothing in a zone, leave and come back. There is a very good chance they will be there when you come back. Also, if you come to a zone and there's nothing there, put the time forward by 1 minute. It does cost money, it's expensive, but it will often bring your respawns in so you can keep shooting. Either do that or leave the map and come back. That's 2 different ways to get respawns when they're not showing up. And you can drop your pickup tent right on the zone, but if you find you're getting beavers knocking it over a lot, it's because deer are running into your tent, and that will cause beavers to remove your tent. If that happens, just move your tent off a little bit to the side to where no deer are running into it, and you probably will have less beavers giving you a hard time. All right, so I'm gonna shoot this big guy with the 308 just in case. I don't think he's a diamond, but you never know. So we're gonna take 2. Now, if you have a floater and you don't want to wait for a floater, again, you can put the time forward by 1 minute and your floater should be on the shore. So I travel to where I want to pick the deer up. There's my floater. So annoying. Floaters are very annoying. So we're gonna put the time forward. It's expensive. And there he is, right on the edge. So that is how to avoid floaters. If you can afford it, why not? And he is a 237, really nice buck, but not big enough for diamond. Diamond is 249.99. And there it is. Now, there are 3 rares for fallow deer. They are piebald, albino, and melanistic. Albino and Mellas are very hard to spawn. You will spawn a pile of piebalds, and piebald fallow are stunningly beautiful. Here is a monster that I shot on my grind last week. Took him with the bow. He is just under 238, so he is a big one. So you definitely can expect to spawn quite a few piebalds, but if you are looking for an albino or a melanistic, keep shooting. In the last 2,500 kills, I have spawned 1 level 3 albino and no melanistics, but I have spawned about 10 piebalds. That's just the way the spawn rates are. Now let's have a look at that hotspot map. This is where my zones are. Okay, so I think I have about 33 drink zones for fallow. So I have put my herd zones in teal, my solo zones in white, and my main shooting zones are in red. Now, you never want to set up on a solo zone, so my main zones are herd zones. Now, you won't have exactly the same zones that I do, but they should be very similar. And if you do have questions about the grind, guys, leave them in the comments. I will definitely go through them. I want you guys to understand this. I would love for this video to put way more fallow great ones in your lodges. That would be amazing. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Your trophy lodge will definitely thank you. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. And I'm going to recommend that you watch this video next.